Okie dokie. I'm actually writing this right after watching this movie because it's midnight right now and I want to get this out of my system to try and avoid nightmares. I'm looking around me, making sure I'm actually alone in my own house, waiting for something to jump out at me. Needless to say, Hereditary is probably one of the most unnerving experiences I've seen in movie form. So, yeah, let's talk about it. Hereditary is about a family dealing with the loss of their grandmother. And honestly, I would stop right there and just tell you to give it a watch because I didn't know much going into the movie and I'm so grateful for that fact. But for the sake of the video, Hereditary is about a family dealing with the loss of their grandmother, and in the process of dealing with their grief, they start to discover a terrible truth about their family. The entire atmosphere for this movie, right from the start, feels like it's dripping with malice or poison. It's like everyone in this family secretly hates each other and are holding back to not shatter the glass house keeping them together. It's such an unnerving vibe that just makes me want to turn away. The palpable tension is so uncomfortable and it feels like it's been ages since I've had something make me feel this way. In a weird way, it feels good. In the worst way possible, which is high praise. This movie reminds me a lot of Barbarian, or more accurately, Barbarian reminds me a lot of Hereditary. Firstly, a good majority of camera angles in this movie are wide shots of the house the characters live in, while Barbarian uses it to make the house seem bigger than it actually is to foreshadow future events. Hereditary uses it to make everything look small, like we're peering into a dollhouse and watching our toys move around to tell a story. It's a bit symbolic because of the way Annie, the mother, vents her emotions through her job, creating miniature displays of buildings and people. It's like the grown-up version of playing with dolls, and it's unpleasant to watch because across the movie she starts to recreate terrible events and horrible imagery via this art form. It's like she's trying to disassociate from the pain by looking at her grief from a third-party perspective, and it's the same feeling that gets conjured up when the movie frames the events in the same way. It reminds me a lot of the music video appropriately called Dollhouse from Melanie Martinez, because both mediums use the metaphor of dolls to represent a broken family hiding away from society. Funny enough, the sons in both smoke weed, which is a amusing little coincidence. There's such a desperate need for these people to seek help, and we see Annie go to a support group at the start to try and deal with her emotions in a healthy way, but as the movie descends, she stops going and we see her turn towards another mean of handling the passing of her loved ones, refusing to contact a therapist or even the police because everyone is already too far gone to be saved. Barbarian also reminds me of Hereditary because of the way the movie unfolds, because I had assumed they were both purely psychological movies that paint realistic situations in grounded horror movies, the fear women have of men for Barbarian, or emotionally abusive families in Hereditary. The first half of these movies feel like events that could actually happen, which makes them all the more terrifying. Yet, both times I begin to realize that there's a sinister supernatural element that starts to creep in during the second half, which I will admit I was slightly disappointed that the story wasn't going to stay realistic to wrap us in this fear of knowing situations like this could happen right next door to us. I realized that I had false expectations, and I honestly applaud both movies for being able to take classic horror movie antagonists like monsters or ghosts and use them to tell a story that explores these darker themes. A small part of me still wants to know what these movies would be like if they had stayed realistic, but that's a different type of movie I'll have to find for myself. I want to go back to how they were dealing with grief because Annie and Peter, the son, provide such amazing performances. Seeing Annie burst out at her son during the dinner scene was such a nauseating moment to watch, and Peter's reaction to just sit there, mouth slightly agape as if he's unwilling to take in anything she's saying fills you with such an indescribable displeasure. A lot of Peter's character is how he's unable to take responsibility for his actions, yet having to live with the guilt of what he's done as it haunts his every waking moment. He's constantly in a daze, unable to focus as he's distracted by his living nightmare. The movie does such a good job of letting us peer into his psyche, like when he sees the rearview mirror in the classroom or his throat starts to get bigger when he's smoking with his friends. The poor man clearly needs so much help, but we can't do anything but just watch him crumble right in front of us. There is one thing I'm unsure about, and to not say too much, Peter is driving under the influence of cannabis and it ends up causing an accident. I was confused why Peter didn't end up being arrested because of this, so I looked it up a little, and to my understanding, it's because they didn't want to press charges against him for the accident. I'm really no lawyer, so I can't say much about it. I just assumed a situation like this would result in jail time. But again, I probably just don't understand the law enough to say whether this is a plot hole or not. I've never even been in a police station. If anyone wants to, I would love to get an explanation below. I think I've written enough to help me get to sleep. Man, this movie is fucked up. The realistic theme along with the violent imagery was just this perfect blend of mindfuckery that I really enjoyed. I just wish I didn't decide to watch it at night. But, oh well. There's no better time to watch horror movies, especially ones as terrifying as Hereditary. Thanks for watching. If you want me to lose my head, let me know in the comments below, and tell me your thoughts while you're down there. Like and subscribe for more content, let me know if there's something you'd like me to cover. I like to talk about anything that interests me. That's all I want to say. I hope you all have a good day.